you were fortunate to go see Purdue Xavier last night. And before we get to that, Mackenzie Mbako, um, that's a weird situation. And I know this is not something that hasn't happened before, but right now he is having a very difficult time adjusting, it seems to be, to the Division One game, or not only that, to Mike Woodson's system. Mike Woodson is not, I've got to applaud Mike Woodson here. I mean, a lot of coaches would not sit a 5-star no matter what, just because of what that might say. He's like, hey, you want to play? Then play. And he's not grasping the system, it seems. And Indiana is looking like they're very vulnerable right now because the stars are not showing up. And then stars are becoming stars that they weren't expected, like Gabe Cupps. Because if I hear Gabe Cupps' name one more time from people, I'm going to jump into the water, man. But everybody loves Gabe Cupps. Well, he's a hard-nosed player. He's a good player. But you can't win with just Gabe Cupps. You've got to have stars, man. You've got to have guys that can produce and offense that produces in multiple ways. And Indiana does not have that at the moment.
No, I think the first problem that the team has, and this is been the one criticism or one persistent thread that we've seen through Mike's first 3 years, 2 years and 2 games, I should say, is that perimeter shooting is either not emphasized or not embraced or it's not abundant enough, however you want to say. I tend to go toward emphasized a little bit because you had Miller Kopp last year shooting a great percentage without many attempts. For a guy who was shooting the number he was, a lot of places are going to get him more attempts than Indiana did. So that's part of why the offense sometimes feels like it's a little bit less productive than it needs to be. But I also, I think that, there's a couple of things that are at work there. First of all, the most difficult position for transitioning from high school to college is that 3 spot. It's easily the most difficult, especially if you're a legit, not if you're a 6'4" guy that they're playing there, because you're just basically playing your second guard spot, but you're moving it a few feet or on the opposite side of the floor or whatever. But if you're a true 3-man, you have existed to some degree on the fact that you're 6'8" and most of the guys you're playing against aren't. And so you've had that physical advantage for most of the last, 3-4 years, depending on when you sprouted up. And so you could always get that little advantage around the rim, and you're dynamic and athletic like Mackenzie is. And so you could get things done around the rim and come off as a more important player on your team. And now you come to Division I, and getting to the rim is harder, and not only because you're being defended by better players, but because you're being defended by schemes, much more sophisticated schemes than you're used to at lower levels. And 2, when you get there, there's a chance that somebody there can block your shot. There's a much better chance, I should say, than when you were in high school. Every now and then, if you're playing AAU, you're going to run into somebody, like a Ryan Kalkbrenner, say, and it's going to be, you're going to have to deal with that. But it's just not as common as it is in Division I, where it's on a lot of teams, if not most, certainly a plurality of teams, as they say in politics. You don't necessarily always get a majority, but if you get a plurality, you still get elected. So I think that's something for him as well. So I'm not that concerned about it relative to the development of the team. I think I expect that is going to be the case with most transitioning 3 men. And when you have the rare guy like a Grady Dick a year ago who could break out of that because he was an elite shooter, and absolutely A+ shooter. So it wasn't as bothersome to him. McKenzie's not an A+ shooter. Can be a good one, but he's not Grady Dick. So he's got to figure out how to score at the college level, and it very well may come. I think they're honestly, although they haven't played well to this point, I think that I'm much more focused on the fact that Khalil Ware has played really well in the first 2 games. Remember, he was the guy I was most worried about in terms of how, was there enough there? Obviously tall and long and skilled and all of that. But when you get into high major basketball, can you perform? Well, they haven't played their best opposition yet, but in 2 games against Division I opposition, he has been consistent. He has been able to perform. He's rebounded. He's blocked shots. He's used his length. He's not been overwhelmed physically. I think he's stronger. I think they had a good year, a good offseason, I should say, since he arrived at Indiana. I think they've done good work with him and made him stronger. And he has turned that strength into toughness. And so from that standpoint, I think they're on the right track there. And you go next to Trey Galloway. Hey, in that first game against FGCU, the jump shot that Trey Galloway hit, that was big time. That he opened, it was the first 6-7 minutes, whatever it was. I don't remember the exact time, but he had a big time 3. In showing he can do that, he's showing he can change this team. We need to see more of that. So Trey's got to be more willing to do that, and IU has to be more eager to get him into those spots. I don't know that he's going to shoot the number that Miller Kopp shot last year. Miller Kopp's extraordinary at that. But I think that Trey can shoot 38. If you can shoot 38, you're a really good college 3-point shooter. If you can shoot 38 on more than 100 attempts, you can really make the difference for this team. And I think they've got to get toward that. I think he's got the ability to do that. So there have been positives, I think, in this as much as the concern about how Ibaka's played.
Well, and speaking of that, they'll get that opportunity. Last night, like I mentioned earlier, you were at the Xavier Purdue game. Tonight, we've got Duke, Michigan State, Kansas, Kentucky, the Maui Invitational that gets underway with a lineup that is just crazy. Tennessee, Gonzaga, Purdue, Syracuse, Kansas, UCLA. That sounds like a fist fight, man. What a lineup that is. So we're going to get a great treat over the next 3 weeks or whatever of just tournament type games. Hopefully the play will be up to that. A lot of these teams have shown that they're in pretty good form already. Indiana is not one of those, but they also will grow up fast, or it could be bad news for them in Madison Square Garden next Sunday when they take on number 5 UConn.
Well, if I'm them, my first concern is Wright State, because that's a team that has been really competitive in the Horizon League over the last half dozen years or so. So you got to make sure that you are prepared for that, because FGCU is a very good mid-major, low-major team. Army certainly brings toughness into the building, although they're a developing program under first-year head coach. So they're going to have to be better to beat Wright State. And obviously you want to be competitive in the UConn game. Winning the game, be nice, but you got to be competitive. I'm not saying that this is the way Xavier viewed it, but last night at Purdue, the real goal for Xavier was be competitive. They have 10 new players. The 2 returning regulars that they had, both are out with injuries and probably for the year. So they had to come here to West Lafayette, to Mackey, and be competitive in one of the most difficult environments in college basketball. And they weren't great, but they were tough. And you can build on tough. So when they go to the Garden to play UConn, which is an extraordinarily talented team, they've got 2 lottery picks on their team. Stephon Castle, freshman, just a tremendous player, going to be a really special player for as long as he stays at UConn. And Donovan Clingan, their center, who could have been a first rounder, could have been a lottery pick last year, but wanted to stay and get better. Not just get on a team in the league and then bounce around. He's got a chance to be a starting center in the NBA, and wisely chose to stick around and develop into that rather than just go and sort of G League, his way into being a pro. It's better to conquer. It's better to conquer at this level and show that you can become a dominant player. So really, I think he's really a gifted player. So that's a lot for Indiana to handle this soon in the season. Indiana's best basketball is going to be played hopefully in January and February, and it's going to be a developmental process until then.